The Herd Line
I
News.
said before the Colts game against the Chiefs, Chris Simms, Phil Simms' kid, came out, and Chris played 5 years in the NFL, Texas, high school star. And Chris came out before the game, and he said, I remember he said this, he goes, Mahomes looks way more comfortable in this weather than Andrew Luck does. And Andrew Luck played the worst game I've seen him play in like 3 years. And I told my staff, I'm like, man, Chris Simms nailed it. I mean, Andrew Luck just looked uncomfortable. And Patrick Mahomes, though he didn't play great, looked very comfortable. Chris Simms also was a former Patriot coaching assistant. He was part of their quality control scouting department, and he is joining us via the Coward Global Satellite Network. In the time you spent there, in the 12 months, Chris, that you spent there, I've said before, dynasties create animosity. It can be Serena, UConn women's basketball, the Yankees, Duke basketball. We don't get bored with them because the ratings are still great, but we start resenting them. What was the one thing you took away from the year with the Patriots where you felt like, wow, they do blank better than everybody else?
Oh, there's a lot of things they do better than everybody else, and that's why it's no coincidence that they've dominated football for the 21st century in the NFL, in a league where we try to make the rules even and make everything even on an equal playing field. But I think the big thing is just the daily attention to detail. The daily attention to detail, Colin, and then the daily work ethic. It just didn't matter if it was May 8th or if it was January 8th. That organization goes into the building on a daily basis with a purpose. Things are going to get done. They're not worried about what time they're going to get home to their family or their kids or their wives. It's about making the New England Patriots team better every day. And I think that's kind of the little dirty secret around the NFL, at least in my eyes sometimes, is, the coaches, the organization, they outcompete other organizations. And when the year's all done, they have 1,000 more work hours in the office compared to the other teams in the NFL. And I just think it's one part of their greatness, Colin.
You played for John Gruden in college, Mac Brown, Jeff Fisher, Josh McDaniels. And you also played quarterback. Even though you were in the building, you played the position, are you surprised that, Brady, McDaniels, Belichick, I mean, we've had one little dust-up. I think it was a love triangle, and Garoppolo got in the way, and they got him out of town. Are you surprised at the durability and the expansiveness and how long it's last without a lot of controversy or movement?
I mean, it is surprising, especially in the NFL, with the egos, the personalities you have, the competitiveness of all the men that are involved, of course, in the NFL in general. But not surprising, I think, once you get there and you realize, wow, I mean, these guys are such professionals. And another thing that New England does is they accumulate guys across the NFL through the draft, free agency, that love football and are in it to win football games and not nickel and dime the organization for every extra cent or dollar or anything like that. But I think it's the non-egos that are attached there. Josh McDaniels, he's a even though he's the face of the franchise, greatest quarterback ever, all of that, he still understands when McDaniels or Belichick give him an order, he has to listen to that. So it is amazing that it's gone just this long without just, a few little dust-ups here and there. But I think once you get to know the individuals and the type of individuals that Bill Belichick has surrounded himself in New England, you'll realize that it's a very selfless group, and they really are into just out-detailing, out-schematically game planning teams on a weekly basis. And hey, there was a sign, Colin, this will always stand out in my mind, where I was up in this little corner of the front office, right, where it said, "We are not collecting players, we are building a team." And that never rang more true than in New England. They have a plan of attack all offseason, every season, how they want to attack a game, how they want to build their team, how they want to rebuild it for a new year. And that's what makes them so special.
Now, you could argue the Rams are collecting players to some degree. Now, they've built a nice culture, but they're kind of the new model, which is a little like Philadelphia and Howie Roseman. We're going to go free agency. We're going to go trades. Now, you were around with the Bucks, with the Titans, with the Broncos. When you were in Denver, they did a little bit of that. Does it necessarily mean if you go opposite of the Patriots, take your experience, what do you make of the Rams model?
Yeah, I mean, the Rams model, I appreciate it for this simple fact. They pushed their chips in the middle of the table before the last 2 seasons and said, we're trying to win a Super Bowl. We're not trying to go to the playoffs. We're not trying to be the most improved team in football. We are trying to win a Super Bowl, and we've seen that with the acquisitions of not only McVay, but, of course, getting Aqib Talib, Marcus Peters, and Ndamukong Suh. I think the thing I look about, it is sustainable what the Rams are doing. Of course, they're going to have to be creative with balancing their money on a yearly basis when you do it this way. But I think the big thing is that would scare me about this type of model, and it didn't happen this year, and hopefully it doesn't happen with the Super Bowl. But it's a lot like the Seahawks. There's lack of depth on the team.
Yes.
That's what would worry me about the long-term prospects of doing it this way. And it even worries me in this specific matchup because I know New England, when they play teams like this that lack depth, they want to get to the huddle quick. They want to wear out the Aaron Donalds of the world. So by the end of the fourth quarter, they can't get after the quarterback because they've had 9 million plays and schemes to think about throughout the first 3 quarters.
As somebody who played the position, I got to ask you were in Kansas City, and I said, you kind of tipped me out before the game. You had said, Luck doesn't look comfortable, and frankly, he was not. Mahomes did. When you watched Mahomes play, he's obviously gifted. What do you take away from it, sitting on the field, watching Mahomes going forward as somebody who played the position? Just gifts? Did he have control of the game? Did you feel he was good pre-snap? What was your takeaway watching him live?
Yeah, definitely. Good question. And I really appreciate you giving me the shout out for my, little pregame observation. Seriously, that was very nice of you. So thanks for that, dude. But in all seriousness, I think the first thing that jumps out to you with Mahomes is his, I want to say his aura, his personality. He was very unfazed as soon as he walked on the field in pregame warmups. I could just tell he was energized by the moment. He wasn't like, oh no, this is a divisional playoff game, I need to be nervous. But then the next thing, Colin, is just the pure physical talent. It was one of those things where I watched Andrew Luck warm up and I said, okay, it's good, but it's not great. He's struggling a little in the elements. And I said, let me walk down here and see Patrick Mahomes. And it's one of those things where, no joke, the first throw you see, you go, whoa, that was a little different. Damn, did that ball spin really hard in place. And damn, did it cover a lot of ground in a whole lot of hurry. And I think that's what just the physical ability and just the naturalness in which he throws the football, I think is the first thing that jumps out to me as an ex-quarterback.
By the way, Brady against Jared Goff. Like Jared Goff, he's a tall, thin kid. I don't think he's ever going to be, I think I look back at your career and I remember putting on weight. A buddy of mine, Brock Huerto, has said, I could drink protein shakes all day. I couldn't put the weight on. And I look at Jared Goff as always going to be kind of thin, a little gangly. But like you, he throws a very pretty football. I thought he outplayed Breeze against New Orleans. I really did, Chris. I thought he really played well late. What do you take of him watching him live and on tape and all throughout the course of the year?
Yeah, I mean, very impressed with Jared Goff. I mean, especially, hey, he hit a little bit of a lull at the end of the season. We know that, where he didn't play his best football against the Bears, the Eagles. But I would argue before that, okay, he did some things that I still had questions about. And I know last year he threw for 28 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. But I would also argue that Sean McVay made the game very easy for him. And the teams that were playing the Rams were still getting used to McVay's offense. This year, especially before that Eagles and Bears game, the thing I take into account about evaluating a quarterback is the things they do off schedule, right? When Sean McVay doesn't call the right play and there's nothing there, there's nothing open, or he has pressure. And he made so many plays off script, whether it was the Vikings game or the Chiefs game that we saw all in primetime, the Green Bay Packers game, where I just said, whoa, there was nothing here. And he threw a 30-yard missile into very tight coverage right on the money. I think he got his swagger back a little bit last week, his confidence, and I do agree with you. He outdueled Drew Brees in New Orleans, which was impressive. He made the biggest, most impactful throws of the football game, whether it was the go route before halftime or being under pressure in overtime and throwing balls in the bootleg where he had people hitting him as he was throwing it. The continued progression is impressive for Goff, and I think we're going to be seeing him for a whole lot of years, him and McVay together.
Say hi to your dad. I love him. NBC Sports, Chiris Simms, you do a great job. Keep kicking butt. Love having you on the show. Thanks for making time for us, Chris.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Have a good week, Colin.
All right. He does a really good job, breaks down film. Dad's a great guy as well. Watch him. One's at NBC, one's at CBS. That's pretty good, right? That's
Good deal.
That's a pretty good deal when you can have multiple family members at multiple companies doing their thing. Coming up next, is it the harshest thing I've ever said about LeBron? Best for last, coming up next. Sports. We talked about the Patriots today. Smart ways to do things, the way they draft, the unity, the way they coach, outwork people. And there's not so smart things in sports. You know, mistakes, calling timeouts when you don't have them. D4 didn't have a great weekend. That was kind of a mental error thing, right? Well, it's the same when you're trying to hire somebody. ZipRecruiter is just not going to throw your company a bunch of resumes. No, they have matching technology, which not only scans thousands, tens of thousands of resumes, they find the people with the skills, education, and experience for your job specifically, and then they invite them to apply to your place.